Your mind determines your destiny because every outcome you experience begins with a thought that either empowers you or limits you. When you understand that your thinking is the root of everything you create, you become far more intentional about what you allow to grow in your inner world. People often chase external solutions, new jobs, new habits, new environments, without ever confronting the internal patterns that have been silently shaping their results. The truth is that your life will always rise or fall to the level of your mindset. And the moment you take ownership of your thoughts is the moment you take ownership of your future. Your mind is constantly interpreting, filtering, and assigning meaning to everything around you. And those interpretations create the emotional and behavioral responses that drive your life. Two people can experience the same situation, yet one sees limitation while the other sees possibility. The difference isn't luck or advantage, it's their internal narrative. When your mind is programmed for fear, you'll always find reasons to shrink. When it's programmed for growth, you'll always find reasons to rise. Your destiny is shaped not by what happens to you, but by how your mind chooses to translate it. Your destiny expands when your thinking expands because your mind sets the boundaries of what you believe you're capable of. If you think small, you take small actions. If you think boldly, you take bold actions. Your mind creates the ceiling you either break through or get stuck under. Every successful person first succeeded in their thinking long before they succeeded in their actions. They saw a version of themselves the world had not yet seen, and they believed in it long enough for it to become real. Your destiny waits on the day your thinking aligns with your potential instead of your fears. Your mind determines your destiny because your beliefs create the instructions your body follows. When you believe something is impossible, your mind stops looking for solutions and starts looking for escape routes. When you believe something is achievable, your mind scans for opportunities, ideas, and pathways you never would have noticed before. Your brain works like a spotlight, illuminating whatever aligns with your dominant thoughts. If you consistently think of failure, you will walk in the direction of failure. If you consistently think of success, your actions and decisions start bending towards success. Your thoughts influence your emotions, and your emotions influence your decisions, and your decisions ultimately determine your future. This is why controlling your inner world is more powerful than controlling your environment. You can't dictate every external event, but you can dictate how your mind processes it. When your thinking anchors you in strength and purpose, challenges become training grounds rather than stopping points. Your destiny becomes shaped by resilience rather than reaction, by intention rather than impulse. Your mind determines your destiny because the stories you tell yourself become the limits or the launch pads of your life. The narrative running in your head has more influence than the opinions of others because it becomes the voice you hear most often. If your internal story tells you that you're not ready, you will always hesitate. If it tells you that you are capable, you will take action even through fear. Your story becomes your standard, and your standard becomes your destiny. Your mind has the power to shift your identity, and identity is the strongest force in shaping your destiny. People don't stay consistent with goals. They stay consistent with who they believe they are. If you believe you're someone who always struggles, your life will match that identity. If you believe you are someone committed to growth, your habits will follow that belief. Destiny is not stumbled into. It is built from the identity your mind adopts and reinforces every day. Your mind determines your destiny because it influences the quality of questions you ask yourself. Asking small questions leads to small answers. Asking powerful questions leads to powerful breakthroughs. When your thinking expands, you stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "How can I make this happen?" The shift from doubt-based questions to solution-oriented questions changes the entire trajectory of your path. The quality of your destiny is tied directly to the quality of your inner dialogue. Your mind determines your destiny because it shapes your expectation. An expectation forms the atmosphere your actions operate within. When you expect failure, you subconsciously sabotage your progress. When you expect growth, your energy shifts, your posture changes, and your commitment deepens. Expectation fuels persistence, and persistence drives transformation. Your destiny is built on the expectations your mind holds about who you are becoming and what you are willing to pursue. Your mind determines your destiny because it is the master blueprint from which everything else is constructed. Nothing in your life changes until your thinking does. Every step you take, every risk you embrace, every opportunity you seize is influenced by the patterns of thought you repeat daily. If your mind is aligned with purpose, your destiny unfolds with clarity. If your mind is clouded with doubt, your progress becomes delayed. The destiny you desire is already within reach, waiting for your mind to finally give it permission to unfold. Self-awareness is the first stage of mastery because you cannot change what you are unwilling to acknowledge. Most people try to elevate their lives while remaining blind to the habits, thoughts, and emotional triggers that shape their decisions. Without awareness, you operate on autopilot, repeating old patterns and wondering why new results never appear. The journey to mastery begins the moment you decide to look inward with honesty instead of outward with blame, recognizing that transformation starts with understanding yourself at a deeper level. Self-awareness gives you clarity about why you do what you do, and that clarity becomes the foundation of purposeful action. When you understand your patterns, you no longer react blindly. You respond deliberately. You begin to recognize the beliefs that limit you, the fears that influence you, and the tendencies that sabotage you. This internal understanding becomes a guide, helping you make better choices and break out of cycles that once felt unbreakable. Awareness becomes a mirror that reveals both your strengths and your blind spots. Self-awareness allows you to notice the conversations happening inside your mind. Your thoughts are not random. They are indicators of your internal programming. When you become aware of the narratives running through your head, you gain the power to challenge and replace them. Instead of allowing doubt, negativity, or comparison to dominate your thinking, you learn to redirect your focus and choose thoughts that align with your purpose. Awareness is the moment you realize you are not your thoughts, you are the observer of them. Self-awareness is essential because it exposes the emotional triggers that influence your behavior. You begin to see how certain environments, people, or situations activate reactions that no longer serve you. Once you recognize these triggers, you can prepare for them, manage them, and eventually rise above them. Emotional mastery is impossible without self-awareness because you cannot control an emotion you never noticed forming. Awareness turns emotional chaos into emotional intelligence. Self-awareness is the first stage of mastery because it helps you identify the gaps between who you are and who you aspire to become. When you honestly evaluate your habits, your discipline, your priorities, and your choices, you begin to see what must shift for your life to elevate. This gap is not a source of shame, it is a roadmap. Awareness gives you direction, allowing you to make strategic adjustments instead of random attempts at improvement. It shows you where your potential is being neglected and where your growth is demanding attention. Self-awareness gives you the power to recognize your strengths and leverage them. Mastery is not only about fixing what is broken, it is also about amplifying what is effective. When you understand what you do well, what energizes you, and what aligns with your natural abilities, you position yourself for greater impact. Awareness highlights the unique gifts you may have overlooked, helping you use them intentionally rather than accidentally. Strength becomes a tool once you are aware of it. Self-awareness also reveals the patterns you inherited, thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors absorbed from your environment, upbringing, and experiences. These patterns often operate beneath the surface, influencing your decisions without your permission. When you become aware of them, you gain the ability to release what no longer serves you and adopt new patterns that align with the person you are becoming. Awareness gives you the freedom to rewrite the internal scripts you were given. Self-awareness sharpens your intuition, allowing you to sense when something is aligned with your purpose and when it is pulling you off track. The more you understand yourself, the more you trust your inner guidance. You begin to recognize the difference between opportunities and distractions, between momentum and motion, between growth and comfort. Intuition becomes stronger when it is rooted in self-awareness, helping you navigate life with confidence instead of confusion. Self-awareness is the first stage of mastery because it builds personal responsibility. When you understand your actions, your motives, and your tendencies, you can no longer hide behind excuses or blame. You begin to take ownership of your life, your results, and your future. Responsibility becomes empowering rather than burdensome, because you realize that you have the ability to choose differently, act differently, and create differently. Awareness turns responsibility into your greatest advantage. Self-awareness elevates every area of your life because it creates a foundation of intentional living. You stop drifting and start directing. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop repeating and start redesigning. Every change you desire begins with the awareness to see what must shift within you. Mastery is not achieved through sheer effort alone. Mastery begins the moment you become aware of who you truly are, what drives you, and what must evolve for your life to elevate to its highest level. Focus shapes your future because whatever you consistently give your attention to begins to grow, strengthen, and dominate your life. Your mind is like fertile soil, and focus is the seed you plant into it. If you plant distraction, confusion, and scattered thinking, your life will produce chaos. But if you plant clarity, purpose, and intentionality, your life will produce progress. Every achievement, every transformation, every breakthrough starts with the ability to direct your focus toward what truly matters instead of what temporarily entertains you. Focus shapes your future because it determines the direction your energy flows. Where your focus goes, your effort follows. When your attention is fixed on your goals, your behavior naturally aligns with them. You begin to make choices that support your growth and ignore temptations that pull you off track. The person who controls their focus controls their actions, and the person who controls their actions shapes their destiny. Without intentional focus, even the most talented individuals waste their potential by scattering their energy across meaningless distractions. Focus shapes your future because it filters out everything that doesn't serve your purpose. When you are clear on what you want, distractions lose their power. People, habits, and environments that once consumed your time begin to fade into the background. You no longer feel obligated to say yes to everything because you understand that every yes is a no to something else. Focus creates boundaries, and boundaries protect your progress. A focused mind is not easily persuaded, derailed, or intimidated. Focus shapes your future because it magnifies what you pay attention to. When you constantly think about what's missing, what's wrong, or what could go wrong, your mind becomes a breeding ground for doubt and fear. But when you intentionally focus on possibilities, solutions, and opportunities, you train your mind to look for ways forward instead of reasons to quit. Your reality often reflects what you repeatedly focus on because the mind expands whatever it concentrates on the most. Focus shapes your future because it allows you to master your craft. Consistent attention to one goal, one skill, or one calling builds depth, expertise, and excellence. The world doesn't reward people who dabble, it rewards people who commit. When you focus deeply, you learn faster, grow faster, and achieve faster. You eliminate the noise of comparison and instead measure your progress against your own potential. Mastery is not created by intensity, it is created by sustained focus. Focus shapes your future because it strengthens your resilience. When your mind is anchored to a meaningful objective, obstacles don't feel like walls. They feel like challenges to overcome. Focus gives you a reason to endure setbacks and push through resistance. It keeps you steady when life becomes unpredictable and helps you maintain momentum when motivation fades. Focused individuals don't quit because they're not driven by emotion. They are driven by intention. Focus shapes your future because it transforms time from something you spend into something you invest. Instead of letting hours slip away, you channel your time into actions that move you forward. You begin to value your minutes like currency, spending them only on what compounds your growth. With focus, even small daily efforts accumulate into significant results. Without focus, even long hours produce very little progress. Focus shapes your future because it sharpens your ability to recognize opportunities. When you know what you're aiming for, you notice resources, connections, and openings that others overlook. What once seemed invisible becomes obvious because your attention is tuned to it. Just like a radio picks up the frequency it's set to, your mind picks up the opportunities that match your focus. The person with a focused mind often succeeds not because they have more chances, but because they see the chances others miss. Focus shapes your future because it aligns your identity with your ambition. The more you commit to one direction, the more you begin to see yourself as the type of person capable of achieving it. Focused people think differently, act differently, and believe differently. Their identity becomes anchored in purpose, and that identity fuels consistent action. When your focus strengthens your self-image, your future becomes easier to step into because you see yourself as the creator of it rather than the spectator of it. Focus shapes your future because it is the channel through which your potential becomes your reality. A scattered mind cannot build a powerful life. A drifting mind cannot create meaningful outcomes, but a focused mind becomes a force, clear, disciplined, and unstoppable. The future you desire is crafted by the discipline of your focus, by the choices you make every day, and by the commitment to pursue what truly matters with unwavering attentio. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because the words you speak to yourself set the tone for how you interpret and respond to your reality. Long before the world tells you who you are, your inner voice has already shaped your identity, your expectations, and your emotional atmosphere. If your internal dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and discouragement, your environment will feel heavy, limiting, and full of barriers. But if your inner voice speaks strength, belief, and possibility, your environment becomes a place where growth feels natural and success feels within reach. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it influences the meaning you assign to every situation. Two people can face the same challenge, yet one sees it as a threat while the other sees it as an opportunity. That difference is not based on circumstance, but on internal conversation. If your inner voice constantly tells you that obstacles are signs to stop, you will withdraw. If it tells you that obstacles are a necessary part of the journey, you will push forward. The environment you experience is shaped by the interpretations your inner voice creates. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it determines how you show up in the world. The way you speak to yourself affects your confidence, your posture, your decisions, and your energy. When your inner dialogue is empowering, you walk with conviction. When it is defeating, you walk with hesitation. Your internal voice becomes the invisible force guiding how you handle opportunities, confront difficulties, and express your potential. Your environment expands or contracts based on the level of confidence your inner voice produces. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it shapes your emotional state. Emotions aren't random. They are reactions to the though you allow to run in your mind. Negative internal dialogue breeds anxiety, insecurity, and frustration, creating an environment that feels unstable and stressful. Positive internal dialogue cultivates calm, courage, and clarity, creating an atmosphere where productivity and creativity thrive. The emotional climate you live in is a direct reflection of the conversations you have with yourself. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it affects the standards you set for your life. What you tell yourself repeatedly becomes the baseline of what you accept or reject. If your inner voice says you're meant for more, you raise your standards. If your inner voice says you'll never do better, you tolerate situations beneath your potential. Standards are not set externally, they are shaped internally, and your environment always matches the standards your inner dialogue allows. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it influences your habits. Your actions stem from your thoughts, and your habits stem from repeated actions. If your inner voice tells you that consistency matters, your environment becomes structured and disciplined. If it tells you that giving up is easier, your environment becomes chaotic and unproductive. Every habit that builds your future or destroys your momentum begins with a single internal sentence that you either reinforce or replace. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it determines the people you attract and the relationships you tolerate. A person with strong, empowering self-talk naturally gravitates toward people who support growth, ambition, and positivity. A person with negative internal dialogue often aligns with people who reinforce their limitations. Your inner voice decides what you seek, what you allow, and what you walk away from, shaping the social environment that surrounds you. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it controls your expectations. Expectation is powerful because it influences what you pursue, what you prepare for, and what you persist through. If your inner voice tells you to expect failure, you approach challenges with hesitation and fear. If it tells you to expect success, you approach opportunities with readiness and confidence. Your internal dialogue sets the emotional and mental environment in which your expectations live, and your expectations shape your outcomes. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it influences your resilience. When challenges arise, the voice inside your head determines whether you keep going or collapse under pressure. A supportive inner dialogue reminds you of your capability and past strength, creating an environment where perseverance feels possible. A destructive inner dialogue magnifies your weaknesses and fuels discouragement, creating an environment where quitting feels justified. The level of resilience you display externally is built by the level of encouragement you give yourself internally. Your internal dialogue creates your environment because it ultimately becomes the script your life follows. Every decision, every habit, every risk, and every turning point is influenced by the words you repeat in your mind. Your environment does not shape your internal voice nearly as much as your internal voice shapes your environment. When you transform your inner dialogue, you transform the atmosphere you live in, the path you walk on, and the future you step into. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because when you learn to regulate your emotions, you no longer allow temporary feelings to dictate long-term outcomes. Many people make decisions in moments of fear, frustration, or uncertainty, and those choices often create consequences that outlive the emo that caused them. When you master your emotions, you create space between what you feel and what you choose, allowing wisdom, clarity, and purpose to guide your actions instead of impulse. This separation becomes the foundation of consistent, intentional progress. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it prevents you from reacting to life and empowers you to respond to it. Reactions are instinctive and driven by emotion. Responses are deliberate and driven by understanding. When you are overwhelmed by feelings, even small challenges can seem larger than they are, and opportunities can look like threats. But when you know how to calm your emotional waves, you can see situations for what they truly are, not what your emotions temporarily magnify them to be. This level of clarity allows you to choose the path that serves your future, not just your current mood. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it helps you stay grounded under pressure. High pressure situations often trigger emotional responses that push people into rushing, retreating, or making choices they later regret. But when you can manage your emotions, pressure becomes a space where you operate with composure and confidence. You don't collapse under intensity, you rise above it. By staying centered, you make decisions based on strategy rather than stress. And that shift alone can change the entire trajectory of your life. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it strengthens your self-control. Emotions can be persuasive, especially the ones tied to fear, anger, or insecurity. Without mastery, those emotions can pull you into habits that undermine your goals: procrastination, avoidance, impulsiveness, or overthinking. But when you learn to regulate your feelings, you gain control over your responses. You become capable of choosing discipline over comfort, purpose over distraction, and long-term gain over short-term relief. Every powerful decision is born from this ability to rise above emotional temptation. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it helps you maintain perspective. Emotions can distort thinking, causing you to blow problems out of proportion or underestimate your own strength. When emotions are high, logic becomes clouded and confidence becomes shaky. But when you master your emotions, you maintain a steady, balanced perspective, even in challenging moments. You can see beyond the emotion of the moment and make choices aligned with the life you are building, not the discomfort you are feeling. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it allows you to handle conflict wisely. Conflict can trigger defensiveness, anger, or fear, and those emotions often lead to words or actions that damage relationships or opportunities. But with emotional control, you can communicate with clarity, listen with intention, and respond with thoughtfulness. You become capable of resolving issues without escalating them, turning potential setbacks into opportunities for growth. The decisions you make in moments of conflict shape the trust, respect, and collaboration you experience in your personal and professional life. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it fuels resilience. When you can manage your emotions, setbacks don't break you, they teach you. Instead of shutting down when things get difficult, you learn to navigate the emotional discomfort and keep moving. You don't make decisions based on fear of failure. You make them based on the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. This resilience makes your decisions bolder, more courageous, and more aligned with your highest potential. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it strengthens your ability to stay committed. Many people start strong but lose momentum when emotions fluctuate, motivation fades, doubt increases, or frustration sets in, and decisions shift accordingly. But when you master your emotions, you don't rely on feelings to keep you consistent. You make decisions based on commitment, not convenience. This emotional stability allows you to follow through on what matters, even when your feelings tempt you to quit. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it helps you align your actions with your values rather than your moods. Emotions can change quickly, but values remain steady. When emotions control your decisions, your life becomes inconsistent and unpredictable. But when values control your decisions and emotions are managed, your actions become aligned, intentional, and powerful. You make choices that reflect who you want to be, not just how you feel in the moment. Emotional mastery leads to powerful decisions because it turns you into someone who leads their life instead of being led by circumstances. When emotions are in control, life feels chaotic and unpredictable. But when you are in control of your emotions, you become the steady force that shapes your path. You think clearly, choose wisely, act intentionally, and move confidently. Every step you take becomes a reflection of your higher self, and your decisions begin to build a future that matches the greatness within you. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it gives your mind a clear destination to move toward, transforming effort from something forced into something purposeful. When you can see where you're going, discipline becomes easier because your actions are no longer random. They connected to a future that inspires you. Without vision, discipline feels like sacrifice with no reward. With vision, discipline feels like investment. Vision gives meaning to every step. Why? Take, even the difficult ones, giving you the strength to push through moments when motivation fades. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it anchors your decisions. When you have a vivid picture of the life you are building, you stop wasting energy on things that don't align with it. You no longer feel torn between choices because your vision becomes the filter that guides your priorities. You naturally choose the habits, environments, and routines that match your desired future. This alignment creates discipline not through force, but through clarity. Discipline becomes the byproduct of knowing exactly who you want to become. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it keeps you focused during adversity. Challenges feel overwhelming only when you lose sight of where you're headed. But when your vision is strong, setbacks don't shake you. They remind you of what you're fighting for. You begin to see challenges as part of the process rather than proof you should quit. A powerful vision keeps your eyes forward, preventing temporary obstacles from creating permanent detours. It allows you to maintain momentum even when the path isn't easy. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it creates emotional energy. A compelling vision ignites excitement, passion, and determination. These emotions fuel your actions and give you the inner strength to keep going when the work becomes repetitive or demanding. When your vision sparks something inside you, the discipline to wake up early, stay focused, or delay gratification becomes more natural. The emotional drive behind your vision becomes a force that pushes you beyond your limits and sustains your momentum over time. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it transforms your identity. When you consistently think about the future version of yourself, stronger, wiser, more capable, you begin to adopt the behaviors of that version now. Vision pulls you into a higher level of self-respect and responsibility. You start making choices that reflect the person you are becoming rather than the person you've been. Identity-driven discipline is powerful because it is consistent, internal, and rooted in belief rather than pressure. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it creates anticipation. When you can see the rewards ahead, You no longer dread the effort required. You begin to look forward to the results your discipline will produce. And that anticipation becomes fuel. It keeps you moving even when progress feels slow. It reminds you that every small action is building something meaningful. This anticipation turns your daily grind into a daily march towards something greater, giving you consistent momentum. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it eliminates the need for external motivation. Motivation is inconsistent and temporary, but vision is steady and internal. When your vision is strong, you don't rely on inspiration from outside sources. You generate your own drive. You know what you want, why you want it, and who you are becoming through the process. This internal fire keeps you moving even when others doubt you or fail to understand your journey. Your vision becomes your personal source of fuel. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it sharpens your long-term thinking. Instead of chasing quick wins or temporary satisfaction, you begin making decisions that align with your future. You become more patient, more strategic, and more intentional. This shift in thinking heightens your discipline because you understand the compound effect of consistent effort. Long-term thinking builds momentum because every small step feels like a contribution to a bigger picture rather than just another task. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it creates certainty. Even when you don't know all the details of how you will get there, you know where you are headed. This certainty calms your fears and strengthens your confidence. You no longer question whether your effort matters because your vision reassures you that it does. Certainty reduces hesitation and increases action, turning your forward movement into steady momentum. Vision fuels discipline and momentum because it becomes the driving force behind every decision, every habit, and every sacrifice. It reminds you that what you are doing today is shaping who you will be tomorrow. It pulls you forward, stretches your capacity, and strengthens your resolve. With vision, discipline is not just a responsibility. It becomes a privilege. It becomes the path toward the future you already see so clearly within yourself.